DraftKings. Back here, first things first. Collection of things we saw, we loved yesterday. Kevin, for you, another Joe Judge classic.
Oh, another day, another wonderful Joe Judge anecdote. Nope, yesterday he didn't tape tennis balls to his lineman's hands, nor did he do a slip and slide to talk about ball security. He didn't like the way practice was starting, so he said, you know what, guys? And they're like, laps? Like, no, not laps this time. We're restarting practice. Just start fresh like a theater director would do. Another take. He's the Brian De Palma of our time, the Martin Scorsese of football. We'll have another take at that from the top, gentlemen. Joe Judge. And I'll give you a spoiler alert later on the show. Look for the Giants to upset the Steelers on Monday. Joe Judge, watch this.
Oh.
No, don't look for that,
He
America.
just gave it to us.
Don't look for that. That's a bad
Brandon,
idea.
you love Deshaun Watson taking a bench break.
Bench break? What? Look, he drops back. He looks for his guy, D-Hop. He's not there. What does he do? He takes off. Then he goes to the bench and he sees Mahomes. He's like, buddy, I don't have D-Hop, but what we do have, we have $600 million collectively. I thought it was a cool moment in the opening game of the NFL last night. This shows the power of football. You can be on different teams and come together. America needs this.
I love it. I love it. All right, Nick, speaking of D-Hop, go ahead.
Oh, boy. Well, so if it's not bad enough for my good friends in Houston last night, the Rockets get annihilated, the Texans get embarrassed, and then coming off the top rope is DeAndre Hopkins with this tweet. Just a cryptic grateful. Yep. He's out there chilling. He's in Arizona. He's probably at Cliff Kingsbury's palatial estate, looking like a house out of a movie, watching these games. Like, can you believe I used to have to play for these guys? Like, look at this. They trade for Brandon Cooks. He's not involved. They give Randall Cobb $18 million. He's MIA until the final drive of the game. I'm just out here chilling, hanging out with you, drinking Mai Tais. So it wasn't really necessary by DeAndre Hopkins, but it was appreciated. That's a good tweet, DeAndre.
All right, moving on. Nick, you inspired me. So what's the one thing we worry about when a team wins the Super Bowl? You mentioned it off the top. We worry about a hangover. Well, what are the tall tale signs of a hangover? Well, you get up, you're kind of moving a little slowly. Maybe you're like wearing pajamas all day. You want to stay in your robe. You got your slippers. You don't want to do anything with your hair. You just
great.
McCall Hardman from the Chiefs walking in, proving my point. This is going to be a hangover. And then the Chiefs go out and they roll over the Texans and they make me look like a moron because I had this thing all planned out as soon as this game was about to start. But, Nick, I will tell you this. I do indeed stand mildly corrected for that. All right. Tough night in Houston overall. The other big story, Game 4 between the Rockets and Lakers, and it was just too little too late for the small ball Houston Rockets. Falling behind big early, couldn't overcome a 2 of 11 shooting night from James Harden. 2 of 11 for those of you who perhaps didn't hear me the first time around. Anthony Davis was great. LeBron was great. 1 assist shy of a triple-double. And the Lakers take a 3-1 series lead with the win. But the story in this one, James Harden. Here he is after the loss.
James, in a game with so much at stake, why did you guys seem so flat through 3 quarters?
Good question.
Who? If I may infer a little from the body language and the lack of actual words, not great, as Nick said. Nick, what do you make of James Harden's disappointing night and then subsequently his reaction to the question afterwards?
Yeah, this bad spot for James. And I understand last night this game's going on during the football game, so a lot of people probably weren't following it closely. The Lakers were wildly disrespectful to the Rockets last night. They played 19-year-old rookie Talen Horton-Tucker early to get him going in case they need him later in the playoffs. They stopped playing entirely with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They were up 23. They just quit, and the Rockets mounted a bit of a comeback. And they did all of that because they were that confident they were going to win, which is in and of itself an indictment on James Harden. If you have sitting across from you in a 2-1 series, one of the best players in the league, one of the greatest scorers of all time, You can't have the approach the Lakers had yesterday. But they did anyway. And what it says about Harden and that Harden didn't rise to the occasion is something of a glaring indictment. It reminded me of about 4 years ago, I think it was 2016, a LeBron Cavs team was 2-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Toronto. And he was asked about it, and he said, listen, I have faced adversity in my career. This ain't adversity. And it was like, oh my God, how insulting to the Raptors. Now, he was right, but that's the level of insult that the Lakers levied at the Rockets, which means levied at James Harden. Yeah. And I, Brandon, as a guy who has defended Harden for years, it's getting harder to defend these performances. Yeah. 2 of 11, you'd like to say it's an outlier, except somehow, Brandon, it is his third 2 of 11 exactly huge playoff game. The game 5 against the Warriors in 2015, I believe. The game I believe he had a concussion, game 6 against the Spurs in 2017. And now last night, 2 of 11, 2 of 11, 2 of 11. And I know it wasn't technically an elimination game, Brandon, but their season was on the line, and he doesn't show up. And their season was on the line in game 7 the previous round. And he had the great block, but he was bad offensively. This is becoming, a pretty thick dossier of some James Harden really tough, high-leverage playoff moments, Brandon.
Yeah, let me try a different angle here, Nick, because you're right. It's hard to continue to root for this guy or to try to talk X's and O's. Let me try the player's perspective. So when I watch this game and you see James Harden's lack of emotion, you see him after the game and he's detached, it just goes to show that the headlines is getting to this guy. So let's go back before the series. One of the things I said was this series will be determined by James Harden. And when you go 2 for 11 again, you are determining the outcome of this series. So what do I mean by the player's perspective? I remember in 2011 playing for the Dolphins and literally playing really bad. And we had a game on Fox, and I just remember walking out of the tunnel and thinking about Troy Aikman he probably has a graphic up of my drop balls on 3rd down, my drop balls in the red zone. And I'm literally picturing Troy Aikman talk through his points with the graphic. And I'm going through my pregame warm-up thinking about what Troy Aikman and what these guys are talking about. That's bad. Because what ended up happening is I went from 3 years in a row catching 100 balls to catching 80-something balls. And that was the first moment where I realized, you cannot read the headlines. You have to double down on who you are. James Harden is a guy who dominates the basketball. James Harden is a guy who's okay on defense. What did he do?